Just going live on YouTube now.
Hi, YouTube.
Hey.
Please send me that money that you owe me.
You never say anything bad about them, do you? So, it's just polite manners.
Never.
Really.
Never at all.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Have you got the show notes, Ruby?
Yep,
I don't have them.
I have that.
Unless he sent them to the...
No, he just sent them to me despite saying that he would send them to...
Yeah, it's all right.
I will... Do you want me to send them to you?
Please. Yeah, meeting is being live streamed. I know, I just did that. Yeah. Why is it warning me? Right, so I have to go to YouTube. Thank you. So this is what it's. I could log in all right like that, but for some reason it got rid of it from my actual browser.
Everyone who's already left a review and leaves a review from today will go into a draw to win a shirt, as well as people who comment on the YouTube video.
225 subscribers on YouTube. That has shot up by about 40 in the last week.
Have you seen the stats for last weekend show?
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's one of the highest viewed ever.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
Do you love a good Verstappen Hamilton crash to get the numbers up?
Definitely helped, but I don't think for Silverstone it was quite that high for the YouTube video.
I think it's
better.
Yeah, I think it's probably also because Danny Rick won and we had a McLaren 1-2.
And potentially because of our sexy new thumbnails, which I've started making.
Yeah.
So
getting into that YouTube algorithm now.
Hey man, you got to play the game.
Yeah.
That's it. You can't change it, so you got to go along with it.
Gotta love, adhering to clickbait as well.
Which we don't do. We're not clickbaiting anybody.
No, we're not.
A lot of people do, though.
Yeah. Right. I've got my notes, so whenever everyone's ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to put the description and stuff up, but I can do that while talking anyway. My computer's just been slow. So, shall I start it?
Yeah, start it.
Sorry.
It's all right. After an invigorating race weekend in Italy last week, Formula One is heading to Sochi, where both the Mercedes and Red Bull teams will be hoping to bounce back from the collision between this season's championship protagonists. Welcome to the F1 Grid Talk podcast. Today we'll be previewing the 2021 Russian Grand Prix. My name is Ruby Price, and joining me we have sports journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
SportlightPro editor George Howson.
Hello.
Hello. And Tom Downey from Everything F1 podcast.
Hello.
Hello. Firstly, we'd like to give a shout out to LC Canada, Benel13, Heard That, Logan 0714, and Skas Norco 21 for leaving us a 5-star review. And if you enjoy this podcast, we would love it if you could take 5 to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'll shout out all of you who do to say thanks. Also, everyone who has already left a review and leaves a review from today will go into a draw to win a shirt, as well as people who comment on the YouTube video. People who click subscribe on YouTube will go in a draw to win a mug. So, get yourself some free merch, or a chance to win some free merch at least. So, Louis, the first bit of big news this week is that Aston Martin will be keeping their driver pairing of Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel for the 2022 season. What do you make of this announcement, and is it at all surprising?
I mean, I was shocked when, Lance Stroll was announced. I was like, wow, that kid has got, so much talent that I was like, surely he's going to go to a bigger team. But no, I think for Aston Martin playing it safe, keeping their 2 drivers, I think it was the wisest decision that they could make, because otherwise, who else is there really out there that they can get in? Vettel, I think he's been getting, he's getting back on his feet somewhat at Aston Martin. He's got some great results, and of course, Lance just has to ask his dad for a new contract, and he'll send it over. So yeah, not too shocked. I think it was overall. I think it's the right decision for Aston Martin.
Yeah, absolutely. George, the other bit of news which came just after the last podcast was that Max Verstappen has been given a 3-place grid penalty for this weekend's race. First of all, was this the right action for the incident? And how do you think Red Bull will react this weekend?
Well, it's a tough one. You can start me off with the easy questions. So, yeah, I think, Red Bull are definitely going to be arguing about it. Christian Horner's going to be complaining about it the whole weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend. And if for whatever reason Verstappen gets any other bad decision, any other decisions or whatever against him, he's going to be saying, oh, they're against us. The FIA are fixing it, all that good stuff. But I mean, I said at the time on the show, because we recorded the show just after the race finished, I generally thought maybe Hamilton was more at fault. But looking into it, hearing the steward's reasoning for giving the penalty to Verstappen, I think that's probably fair, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that Hamilton was ahead, Verstappen was never ahead. So the lead driver dictates the line, and then the driver that's trying to overtake has to go another way around. I do think it's a little harsh in a way, because I think the biggest cause of that accident were the sausage curbs. If they weren't there, Verstappen wouldn't have flipped onto Hamilton's car, and I think they should take them out, to be honest. I'm sure there's a good reason for them being there, but as we've seen with people like, I think it was Alex Peroni in F3 years ago, those things are really dangerous. So I can see why they've given a free good place penalty. I don't think it really do anything. He's still going to finish on the podium. It's going to make winning very difficult for him, but I don't think it's going to change the result a lot. So I think they've kind of halfway housed it a bit with that one.
Yeah, and Tom, there was a lot of suggestions that to respond to this, Red Bull could just take that engine penalty that they were expected to be taking at some point this season, because then they can just compound the two together. And Sochi is historically a Mercedes track anyway. So do you think that's something that they'll do, or do you think they'll just try and just, take 3 places and go for the win?
I think they probably will take the engine penalty this weekend. Just get it over and done with. They're going to have to take it at some point. And given that they're starting this coming weekend on the back foot in terms of grid position, because like we said, Max is going to be 3 places back no matter where he qualifies. I imagine they'll just get him probably into the top 10, maybe not even set a time in Q3, save a set of tyres, take the penalties, have him start at the back, get the AlphaTauris in front of him, well, one of them in front of him, Snowden still behind Q1, to hold up, move him out of the way, then they might try some sort of obscure pit stop strategy. Probably the most action we'll have all weekend in the Russian Grand Prix, because it's usually a snooze fest. But to answer your question, yes, I think they will take it this weekend, and I think even more. I think that even more so because they've come out of Monza effectively ahead, because Verstappen got 3 points from the sprint.
Yeah, that is a very good point. The sprint race very much helped them compound their, win. Lead ahead of the Mercedes. So, yeah. Louis, looking at the other Red Bull driver, just to stay on them for the minute, Perez has been underperforming the last few race weekends, but managed to claim P5 by the end of Monza. Should have really been, P3 if he hadn't have if he'd have decided to give a place back at the right time. But do you expect him to return to where that car should be on the grid, or are we going to see more of him struggling to make it into Q3 this weekend?
I think, as we sort of already said, this track is a very Mercedes track, and I think it's one that Red Bull are going to struggle at. And at tracks where Red Bull struggle, Perez's struggles then are kind of amplified, and it just shows just how little pace or relative pace that Red Bull has to the Mercedes. So Perez is going to have to put in something special, and Red Bull, if they are going to take the engine penalties with Max and sacrifice his grid position, they're going to need Perez as high up the grid as possible to give them any sort of fighting chance, especially in the Constructors' Championship, where they are losing quite significantly now. So I think for Perez, it is really time that he stepped up, because this Constructors' battle is getting very close. It's getting very tense, and it's very quickly shifting towards Mercedes. And Red Bull need to get that back on track if they hope to get both championships this season. But I think for Perez, it probably won't be a good weekend. I can't see him doing brilliantly, but you never know. Something could happen, but I haven't got my hopes up.
Yeah, I mean, we are doing this on the back of Monza, so anything could happen this weekend. And, as Tom said, Russia's generally a snooze fest, but we usually say that about France. And this season, it actually gave us a very great race. So who knows, really? But, George, let's move on to Mercedes and the championship leaders at the minute. They are ahead of Red Bull, which I don't remember when that happened, but it happened at some point. But yeah, historically, we've said this is a Mercedes track. They've won, I think, every single time that they've been here, including, some very unusual wins when Ferraris decide to take each other out or, fight over the same piece of tarmac. But what do you expect to happen this weekend for Mercedes? Because they were supposed to be dominant in Monza, and sadly, it just never really occurred and then they just fell back. But what do you think will happen this weekend?
I think, this is a Mercedes track. I think they're going to do really well here. I looked at the history of the race before this. They've won every single Russian Grand Prix, even going back to 1913. So Mercedes have always won around here. And there's not really anything to suggest it'll be any different this week. And partly because of Verstappen's penalty, but also because I think the Mercedes will probably suit this track really well. Interestingly, though, one of the more interesting things for this one could be that this is a very Bottas circuit as well. I mean, he's only won twice compared to Hamilton's 4, but I think it was 2018 when Bottas was, Valtteri, it's James, that famous one. So that would have been 3 apiece. So I think Bottas is good round here if he's if he can get qualifying right, or even if he gets qualifying wrong, even if he starts second or third, that's not such a bad thing here because of the slipstream into turn 2 or 3, whichever one it is, first braking zone anyway. So I expect it to be closer between the two Mercedes drivers than it has been. If Bottas doesn't win this weekend, he's not going to win for the rest of the season. This is his best track probably for the remainder of the season. So I expect them to be up there. But will Valtteri on a team orders if people come over the radio? I mean, what they're going to do? Sack him? He's already leaving anyway. So that could be interesting. But I think as far as the racing goes for Mercedes, it's unless Perez can run a ridiculous strategy around here or something, keeping his tyres for longer, I don't see it being anybody other than them at the front, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously tyre compounds have changed a bit since 2014 when we were here first, but Rosberg did pit at the end of lap 1 and then go to the end on hard tyres, which was clearly a mistake. But, you never know when it's the first time that you're in a circuit. But, Tom, let's look at last weekend's, absolutely dominant race winners. One thing that I don't think enough people have been saying about that McLaren win is that they won it on pace. Yep. Obviously, the Red Bulls and the Max Verstappen and Hamilton took each other out, but they were ahead at that point anyway. Do you imagine they're going to take this momentum into Russia and, maybe even challenge ahead of them?
There's certainly a possibility, and I absolutely agree with you that not enough people are giving McLaren credit for last weekend. With the greatest of respect to Esteban Ocon's victory, it's a better victory than that because Ocon almost lucked into the position he was in and then, yes, played the rest of the race perfectly, had Alonso doing a great job behind him, but he fundamentally somewhat lucked into that position. McLaren were there on pure pace. In quali on Friday, they were there. In the sprint race on Saturday, they kept their noses clean. They were there. They were starting there anyway. It's fortunate for them that Hamilton went backwards because he could have posed a real threat. And then on Sunday, Danny Rick did #Danny Rick things and just absolutely sent it up inside of Verstappen, really got his elbows out. That was the kind of drive we've seen from Danny Rick, not really since he left Red Bull. We haven't seen him do a dive bomb like that since, I think the last one I really remember was Baku 2018, or it might be 2017 actually. But he got there on merit. And I do think McLaren could continue this sort of momentum into this coming weekend at Sochi. There's obviously that huge straight which has turn 1, which isn't really a turn in it. So that run down to turn 2, we could see the McLaren getting a good shove, especially if they get a slipstream down there.
Yeah, and with that Mercedes power unit as well, which certainly did help in Monza, that is going to make all the difference. And Louis, just staying on McLaren, obviously you're a McLaren fan, and seeing those Papaya 2 like on the top steps last weekend, from to obviously what with how terrible it has been for McLaren since even 2014 really, but the last win before this was 2012 with Jenson Button in Brazil. How did that feel as a McLaren fan, seeing them on the top step again?
Oh, it was genuinely amazing. It's taken so long, like 9 years, for me to finally see McLaren win, and that's like more than half of the time that I've been watching Formula One. Like, so I was so used to, like, when growing up watching McLaren win, with Fernando Alonso, with Lewis Hamilton, with Jenson Button, and then it just such a long period of nothing, and then it was great to see them back. And you've really seen this progression since Zach Brown took over, of just this, not McLaren immediately rising to the top, but doing the correct thing every single year to just slowly bring them up. And they've got the right people on. Andrea Seidel, I think, was another great addition to McLaren. He's done wonders for that team. And, and here it is, it's the payoff. You get someone like Daniel Ricciardo in, who wasn't, at his best at Renault, has been really struggling. But then just to know that he had the car underneath him, and he has, the talent that we all know that he has to win a race like that. And I was saying during the race to other people on this podcast that Daniel Ricciardo winning means that McLaren are something else now. We're so used to Lando being in a tier of his own and then Daniel being further back. This now brings Daniel right back in with Lando, and that fight for third in the Constructors' Championship with Ferrari could possibly be over for Ferrari now, with such a dominant Daniel Ricciardo. And I really hope that we're going into this weekend, we don't see the same old Ricciardo again. I think he's going to take this. It's a defining moment in his career almost. And hopefully we're going to see more great things from Ricciardo. We're going to see more great things from McLaren. And with Max's penalties and stuff, maybe that third place could be a papaya again.
Yeah, I mean, like he said, he never left. He was just sitting on the sidelines for a bit. But George, one team who won't have been, feeling the good feels of McLaren being on the top 2 steps is their, championship rivals Ferrari, who are 13 and a half points behind them. This half points is going to get really confusing near the end. But what do you think, they're going to do this weekend? Because, I don't think they've got the car to win. I don't think they've really got the car to challenge for the podium this weekend. But, are you expecting 4th or 5th, or are you expecting, 8th or 9th?
I'm expecting them to do quite well, actually. I've got a feeling they'll do. Well, I don't want them to, obviously. I'm a McLaren fan as well. I want McLaren to stay up there. 13.5 points is a decent gap, obviously, for them to be ahead, but it's not insurmountable. It's not insurmountable, absolutely not. There's still a long way to go with this battle for third in the Constructors. I think they'll do well because it's hard to pass around Sochi. And Charles Leclerc, in qualifying in particular, let's not forget, he got 2 pole positions this season. He has been on fire in qualifying. I think they'll do well. I think they'll be challenging for the podium, to be honest with you. But I also think McLaren will do really well. I think it's going to be quite close. I really do between those two. But I think Ferrari might have the edge in qualifying because McLaren don't usually qualify that well. Ferrari seem to qualify pretty well. And then in the race, maybe it'll swap round. But I expect them to be battling for, probably 5th, maybe something like that, 4th or 5th, maybe stretching it up to the podium. But we'll see. It's I think Charles Leclerc's done quite well here in the past as well, so it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, he did put it on pole, I think it was in 2019, I think, the last time Ferrari were challenging. But yeah, you're right. They could have a chance. But Tom, let's look at Alpine, all the way back down in 5th with quite the gap to the teams ahead, but also now they're stretching that gap between themselves and AlphaTauri. It's currently 11 points. So, they'll be looking to capitalize on that and just extend that a little bit this weekend.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about Alpine. They've sort of fallen a bit into that sort of curse of like they almost like the sort of like Aston Martin curse. They're either going to be 5th or 15th, and with sort of like nowhere in between, pretty much. They could have a good weekend. I previously said they wouldn't have a very good weekend in Monza, and they actually did all right in the end. So I'm just going to play it safe and say that they'll have a weekend like that in Sochi, because I think there are some similar characteristics between the two circuits, apart from the final sector, obviously, which is just like turning 90 degrees several times. It's like getting lost in a car park, really. Alpine could do all right this weekend, and obviously, you can never ever write off Alonso, and also Ocon is doing just a good job this year. Obviously, got a nice W under his belt, so they could do okay. And I'm just going to sit on the fence with this one.
Yeah, Ocon does need that consistency, that got him that contract extension, and then he decided to just disappear for a bit afterwards. But yeah, consistency will be key for Alpine if they want to stay ahead of, AlphaTauri, who, with the consistency of Pierre Gasly, Louis, other than suffering that problem at the start of the sprint race and then basically writing off the rest of his weekend, they'll be looking to bounce back this weekend with at least one of their drivers after, I think it was 2 did not start, actually.
Yeah, Tsunoda had some issue on the grid, which meant they had to pull his car into the garage. And then, Gasly, his weekend was basically totaled after the sprint race. But yeah, AlphaTauri, they have that one driver in Pierre Gasly who they know can do well. And Pierre Gasly was doing well in Monza up until the point where he crashed. So, he can do it, and we all know that he can do it, and we all know what Gasly is capable of. And I think a top 10 is quite easily achievable for Gasly. I don't think it's going to be too much of a struggle. There is pace in that AlphaTauri car, as we've seen on multiple occasions throughout this season. It's just what his what the driver in the other garage can do, and whether Yuki can get out of Q1 ever. But for someone like Gasly, who keeps pumping in all this performance, keeps completely wiping the floor with Yuki Tsunoda, it's going to do nothing but good for his confidence. It's going to do nothing good for his career. And I think we all have really come to recognise since his Red Bull departure just how good of a driver Pierre Gasly is. He is phenomenal, and the fact that he is still at AlphaTauri next season is a bit what's terrible for him. To be honest, he really needs to. I think he needs to go somewhere else. But he's still young. He's not like he's getting to the sort of the dear end of his career. He's got plenty of years left in him, and I think another strong performance in Sochi could be on the cards. Points definitely on the cards. For AlphaTauri, they just need to be more concerned about the other driver.
Yeah, you do have to feel for Pierre Gasly. He was performing really well in Toro Rosso before he got, emergency promoted to the Red Bull team, and then went to the Red Bull team and didn't really show any of that. Goes back to Toro Rosso and then AlphaTauri, race winner and all of that jazz. But it's stuck in no man's land because Red Bull have made it clear they do not want him in that senior team anymore. But there's just no more space on the grid. But yeah. George, Tom's already said that Aston Martin will either be 5th or 15th, but what do you reckon for Aston Martin's chances this weekend? Because, they want to be challenging ahead, but there is still quite that sizable points gap.
Yeah, it's a big gap between them and AlphaTauri. I'm just looking at it now. It's 35 points between them and AlphaTauri, and Williams are 37 points behind Aston Martin. So it's almost as big of a gap. So yeah, it's quite surprising in that sense. I don't think they're going to have a good weekend. One of the things they've managed to do sometimes is run the cars very long because the tyre wear. But in Sochi, as we've seen, it's billiard table smooth. There's not really any tyre wear. So I don't think they're going to do well, I'll be honest, despite extending both drivers until next year, which is good, obviously, a bit of consistency in there. I mean, we do take the mick out of Lance Stroll, and rightfully so to an extent, but he's done all right. He's done all right. And Vettel has found his feet at the team. So next year could be big for them, of course. But this year, they just seem to be counting the days down a bit. The cars are slowly going back. I think they'll probably stay in that 7th place, unless maybe George Russell gets another podium or something for Williams.
Yeah, I mean, all it would take is George Russell P1, Latifi P2. Williams would be ahead of them.
Exactly. I think that's.
And the fact is, we
reasonable.
can't even say that it's unfeasible because George Russell's already finished second at one point this season. So, I mean, he didn't really start second either, but Spa's in the past. Spa's in the past. But Tom, yeah, let's look at Williams. George Russell got points again last weekend. Who saw this run coming? Because I didn't.
I think if coming into the Italian Grand Prix, you'd have said that Williams are the only team to get points in back-to-back races, especially after the disaster show that was Belgium, you'd have probably checked me into Broadmoor. But no, it really did happen. Especially with the podium, obviously for George. I mean, I think for Russell as well, I think he knew in Belgium that he had that Mercedes contract, and I think they were just waiting on the announcements, because I said at the time, if you looked at his body language, the things he was saying, he exuded all the signs of someone who knows that he's got something which he's been working towards and something that he's wanted. So I think that's given him almost a peace of mind. Plus, Williams is not the worst car on the grid anymore. I'd go as far as to say it's better than the Alfa Romeo now as well. I mean, we all know the Haas is the worst car. They'd probably be better off driving one of the lorries they bring over, all the bits and bobs with them. But yeah, Russell has done really well. I don't know if he'll get points this weekend. Might need one or two things to swing his way, because the Williams does obviously have some fundamental aero issues. But we said that like before Belgium, we said that before Monza, and he finished in the points in both of those races. And Belgium was completely on merit. He put that car P2. Less said about the race, the better. But he is a fast driver, and I think because he knows he's got a multi-year deal with Mercedes, he's able to sort of almost relax in the car a bit now, and his natural ability is coming through even more.
Yeah, I mean, what race in Belgium? I don't remember watching a race in Belgium.
I spent longer sitting at the traffic lights waiting to turn right to go to Tesco.
Oh man. Louis, sticking on Williams just a sec. Tom's obviously mentioned their car is sort of lacking in downforce, and that final sector, is going to be particularly problematic for the Williams this weekend.
Yeah, and it's tight, it's twisty, it's got a little bit of elevation change. It's a bit off camber, so it can be quite tricky. But George Russell, he's the master of qualifying. He could do wonders with that car, regardless of how that Williams is performing. I think Saturday is really where Williams are going to shine. I can't really see them doing much in the race. I think it's going to be a kind of bit of a slap back to reality for Williams and George Russell. If they do get points, I think that's probably tops Spa, if anything, because this is a track I really don't think they'll do very well at. And then those long straights, especially going all the way down to turn 2, I think there's probably cars with a bit better aero efficiency in a straight than a Williams that could probably do a lot better. But they've shocked us all season. I don't think any of us were really expecting Williams to score any points really this season. But they're doing absolutely fantastic, and you can't take that away from them. But I think just race pace, I think, is going to be the thing it's going to be lacking. And as you said, that third sector, especially then following cars through that as well, is going to be even more tricky on the downforce. So yeah, it could be something that could really hinder sort of Williams' sort of point scoring run that they're on right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider that all of their points have come from the last 4 or 5 races, they were previously on 0. it is a shock to see them with points. But yeah, as you say, they'll either pull off a miracle or it'll be a slap back to reality. And hope there goes gravity. And George, let's look at Alfa Romeo for this weekend. Giovinazzi was actually doing really well in Monza until he decided to face sideways for a bit after is it Della Roggia chicane?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kimi Räikkönen's obviously been MIA with COVID for the last 2 race weekends, but no Robert Kubica this weekend, so it looks like he's coming back. What do you imagine they'll do this weekend? Do you think they've got any chance of, claiming back P8, or do you think they are resigned to P9 for now?
I think they're resigned to P9. I can't see the guys behind them getting any points. Obviously, Haas are just dismal, as we've covered so much on this show. And it's a 19-point gap to Williams ahead of Alfa, and they've scored 3 all season, and they've been 3 10th places. They need to get a good points on me like they did in Brazil a couple of years ago to even get close to that. And you just can't see it. Yeah, I mean, Kimi, he'll be back this weekend. That's going to be good for the team. Kubica, I think he did a standout job as a stand-in for Raikkonen while he had coronavirus. I think he did brilliantly, but there's only so much you can do with that car. Gio, he's doing absolutely bits in qualifying. He's doing fantastically. He's becoming Italian Jesus is becoming the new Mr. Saturday. But unfortunately, on Sunday, it's just going. I was going to say something rude there. It's just all going wrong for him. It's not what he wants, and they just end up near the bottom of the running order by the end of it. If Gio can get up there in qualifying, he can get into Q3 again, which I don't see. But even if he does, he has to keep the car going for the whole race. And a bit like Tsunoda at AlphaTauri, he just finds that difficult to do. He's probably overdriving the car because he's trying to make up for how bad it is. It's aerodynamically, it's not there. The chassis isn't there. The engine's definitely not there. So I can only see them staying in 9th. But they're not going up. If anything, they make me go down if Mick Schumacher pulls off a miracle for Haas or something. But I don't see that either, to be honest.
Yeah, you're talking silly there, George. That Haas is not getting points. I mean,
no.
now they currently have a driver in 21st out of a 22-car championship. So, that just shows you how they've been performing.
It's where he deserves to be fair. It really is. But yeah, that just highlights how bad it is.
Yeah. So, Tom, talking about, the portable Russian flag, it's a home Grand Prix for one of their drivers this weekend. But, as much as we say that the home track gives them an advantage, I don't think it's going to give them anything this weekend because, as we've said, that car's atrocious.
Rubes, I think you need to have a little faith. It's home race for Mazepin with his definitely American and not Russian flag car. He's going to do it. He's going to qualify 19th, not 20th. He's going to do it. I've got faith. Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah. I mean, much like every race weekend we've had this year, I think the only one you can take exception from that is Hungary when Schumacher was getting his elbows out and showing a good bit of fight. I don't think it's going to be much to phone home about for Haas this weekend. I would imagine they'll probably get laps twice, maybe whoever the further back Haas is, Mazepin, gets lapped 3 times. I mean, there's not an awful lot to add, is there? Like George said, they've been abysmal all year, and they're not getting any better. They're not developing the car for this year, which I completely understand. They focus all their resources into next year, which, given they've had 2 rookie drivers in, is probably a good idea, especially when they have to pay the repair bills after those 2 keep pranging it into the wall. But yeah, it's probably going to be quite a lonely race for them. The only thing that I hope that we don't see is when we've talked about it before, Mazepin has developed a rather nasty habit of trying to put his teammate into the wall, usually specifically down the pit straight. And especially with that sort of kink going into turn 1, I really hope he doesn't do something stupid this weekend. But I'm not going to hold my breath about it.
I mean, they did come together in Monza as well and he spun around Mick Schumacher, which, the team won't be happy about. But just to comment on you saying they're not developing this car any further, they didn't develop this car at all. They designed it in MS Paint from last year.
No, I think that they did the aerodynamics on the Etch a Sketch, so
that explains why it's so square. But yeah, let's look at some predictions for this weekend. So obviously we want a race winner. So Louis, who are you expecting to be on that top step this Sunday?
Nikita Mazepin.
Maybe if Putin decides to assassinate every single one of the other drivers, but I wouldn't put that past him. Actually,
don't give him ideas.
I mean, is Mazepin even allowed to call this his home race, considering he has to race under a
the
neutral
Russian
flag?
Auto Federation?
Right. I genuinely don't think he is. No.
He's Mr. Worldwide in F1 2021. I've noticed that it's got the worldwide flag on there.
Oh, God's sake.
Rest of world in FIFA.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be. Personally, I actually think it's going to be Valtteri Bottas. I think going back to what George said earlier, this is actually quite a Bottas track. And if Max is nowhere to be seen, there's no real need for team orders for, to let Lewis pass for the championship or whatever. They may want to, maximize his points, but Lewis can just get a fastest lap. They don't need to, bother Valtteri at the top. I think Bottas, you put so much service into a team. The one thing they can do is probably let him win the odd Russian Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, historically, he has had a chance of it. But George, your race winner for this weekend, please.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Sir Lewis Hamilton. I think whether it's via team orders or whether it's via genuine praise, because he has been faster than Bottas there in the past. He probably would have won there last year if he didn't do his legal pit lane start. So yeah, I'll go with Hamilton.
Tom.
I'm going to go with Hamilton as well. As much as I'd like to see Bottas get a win this season, and Russia is probably his best option, realistically, Mercedes are going to absolutely protect Hamilton in the championship fight. If I was Toto Wolff, not that I will ever be, I would do if I was in that position, because it's the sort of most logical thing. If Hamilton qualifies ahead of Bottas, provided nothing goes wrong, he will set off into the sunset. He'll have mentally checked out by about lap 7, and he'll just be driving around telling Bono his tyres are dead. If Bottas qualifies ahead, I'd imagine they'll either swap them in the pits, they'll do a different strategy, or if there is a threat from a car behind, quite possibly a McLaren, or I'd like to see Perez, and I wouldn't put it past Pierre Gasly to be sort of like knocking on the door, if they get strategy right, or if something happens. But the point is, if someone is like behind them, sort of like pressuring them, then I think we'll hear Valtteri James move over, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to go for Hamilton on the basis of 26 points is better for the championship than 19. So, yeah, Lewis on the top step for me. But Louis, the rest of your podium, please.
Well, put Bottas first. The only person, to have faith in Mercedes that they'll do the right thing. No, but it'll be for me. Hamilton second. I think that's pretty much a given this weekend. And then in third place, I'm going to go another podium for the Honey Badger, Daniel Ricciardo.
George, the rest of yours, please.
Obviously, Hamilton first. I'll say that Verstappen, because he did a storming drive through the fields. I think it was 2017 off the top of my head, something like that. He's not bad round here, but obviously he's going to start a bit further down the grid. So I'll go with Verstappen for second and Bottas for third.
Fair enough. Tom?
I'm going to say Hamilton, Bottas, 1, 2. Third, I'm going to say Norris.
Yeah, that's my podium prediction as well, actually. You stole my thunder. All right, let's get some bold prediction. Let's get some bold predictions in. So, Louis, your bold prediction, please.
See, all of them are ruined now. Like, we used to have Russell for points. He gets points 3 times in a row. I said Latifi for points. He wasn't even that far off in Monza. He was. Come
on, Louis. It's Mazepin time. Mazepin for points.
Mazepin for points.
It has to happen.
I'm going to say Mick Schumacher Q3.
Oh.
That's.
Oh,
I mean, if it happens, well done. But
if
that's bold.
If it happens, I'll buy you a beer. But
Cheers. Thank you. I'll be taking
Send him a
that.
coffee link. George, your bold prediction, please.
Even though I've not put him on the podium, I'm going to go very bold with this one. I've got a sneaking suspicion will do very well, particularly in qualifying Ferrari. I'm going to say Charles Leclerc for pole position.
Charles Leclerc for pole position.
He's done it before.
You did suggest it
Not
when
in
you were
bloody-
talking about Ferrari earlier.
Yeah, but not in bloody Russia.
He's had
You
it
never
before.
know. You never know.
I'll be fairly certain.
Tom, your bold prediction, please.
Well, I'm not going to say Charles Leclerc on pole. There's bold predictions, and then I think there's wishful thinking.
I don't want it to happen. I don't want Ferrari to do well.
Yeah. No, I am going to say. I think this can qualify as a bold prediction now, given how atrocious he's been qualifying. Tsunoda out of Q1. Sorry, Tsunoda gets into Q2.
Yeah, when you said bold prediction, Tsunoda gets out in Q1, I was like,
Yeah,
no,
so-
that's just standard procedure.
So I didn't phrase it very well. I meant he gets out of Q1. So it's easy to say gets into Q2.
Yeah. I'm going to say, we've had a lot of safety cars lately. No safety cars this weekend.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might just end up being a bit of a procession, sadly. But, I'll take no safety cars and a procession just because we've had a lot of them lately.
Do we have
So-
safety car in Spa? I can't remember.
I mean, we didn't have a race in Spa. We had several safety cars in Spa, actually. But yeah, now is a time to give an opportunity for everyone to promote the platform that they're, self-interest in. So, George, you're from Sportlight. Give us a bit about SportlightPro, please.
Yeah, so I run SportlightPro.com. That's my website. We cover Formula One, we cover football, we cover other sports as well, like cricket. We chip in with other things like that as well. So yeah, go check us out if you want to check out some hot takes from people like Louis, people like Ruby. They've both written articles for the site. Lots of other panelists as well on this show have written too. And we're currently doing a bit of a redesign, so the site will look a bit more flash, a bit faster as well soon. So I'll keep you guys posted about that.
Yeah, definitely go and check out SportlightPro.com. Tom, you're from the Everything F1 podcast. Give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm from Everything F1, and we talk about all things F1, as the name would suggest, but also all things motorsport in general. Our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram handle is @JoinEF1. We also have the Everything F1 podcast, which goes out weekly. We have a YouTube channel, Everything F1. We have a Discord server, which is not something people mention as much. Discord seems to get forgotten a bit, which is also Everything F1. And last but by no means least, we have our Facebook group, which is the Everything F1 Paddock. Oh, and also the website everythingf1.com.
Nice. Definitely go and check that out. And Louis, you're a man with fingers in many pies, but go on, give us, the view from the crowd in Spotlight Pro.
Yeah, I write for George doing F1 and also some football, and then I have my own website, which is viewfromtheground.com, where I write about any sports that I particularly like. So anything from football, NFL, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if anyone fancies checking me out any further online, I've got my own YouTube channel, just Ruby Price. Vlogs, reviews, stuff like that. You might like it. If you do, let me know. Cool. So Grid Talk is now available on Amazon as well as YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Verbal, Omni Studio, and Pocket Casts. Just search F1 Grid Talk. We have a huge back catalogue of shows with previews and reactions to qualifying and race results. We have a Reddit. Just search the subreddit F1 Grid Talk. And we also have a Patreon for mics, lights, and better recording equipment. You can get your hand on some official Grid Talk merchandise on gridtalk.shop. And don't forget, we do have some prize giveaways at the minute going on. So as just a reminder of those, anyone who's already left a review and leaves a review today will go into a draw. I think it's 2 draws actually to win a shirt, as well as the people who comment on the YouTube video. And anyone who's clicked subscribe to this YouTube channel will indeed go into a draw to win a mug. And, there's lots of other things on the store. So go and have a look at that and get yourself some fancy Grid Talk merch. I definitely want some myself. Also, make sure you subscribe so you're the first to know when each new weekly episode is released. We'll be back on Saturday to review the qualifying results from the Russian Grand Prix. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much to everyone for joining me.
No worries.
My pleasure.
Anytime.
Yeah, and stick around on YouTube if you are indeed watching that. And thank you very much and goodbye. You can stop recording now, George.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to cut you off.
So yeah, first things first. Connor Walker hoping to see a Bottas win. A lot of people. Louis.
You're with
thinks we're gonna
Louis,
see a
yeah.
Bottas win. Yeah. The other thing as well, just what do you guys think about Yuki getting a new deal? David Coulthard pretty much ripped him for it.
Can I take this one, please?
Yeah,
Go
go on.
Oh, right. Here we go. Okay.
Cracks knuckles, you know we're into
yeah, it's just
something.
like, go on there. Connor, I'm glad you asked this question, my friend, because it's something I've mentioned a few times on the podcast. Yuki Tsunoda wouldn't be in Formula One if he wasn't backed by Honda.
Savage.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's true.
And he hasn't done enough, I don't think, to warrant a contract on merit. I think there are definitely powers at play behind there. And I also think that because Red Bull haven't got as many drivers readily available in the junior program, so they've almost had to, their hand has almost been forced to keep him on. Because what are they going to do? Are they going to bring back
Kvyat?
I couldn't think of his name then. Kvyat for a fourth successive.
How could you forget?
I know, yeah. I know.
The first three
It's-
times
it's-
didn't work out, but I'm confident about this one.
It's the origins of the torpedo this weekend
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
it is as
Of
well,
course,
isn't
yeah.
it?
when he hit
That's
Vettel
what
twice
Perez-
in one
Perez-
corner.
It's
Yeah.
what Pro should do to Hamilton, and he just hits him on the
Oh,
rear in
Just
turn three.
absolutely yeet him off. Yeah, but Tsunoda needed at least another year in F2 to develop some more racecraft, some more experience. Because Schumacher had an extra year in F2, and look what that did for him.
Completely different driver.
Yeah.
And Tsunoda is just, he's obviously got talent, and he is still very young. I think, especially given the pressure cooker environment the Red Bull is, I think he's been thrown in too soon.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that the Red Bull Driver Academy have got is that they've been through more drivers than James Hunt went through girlfriends. Like,
You've been waiting to use that line, haven't you?
Oh, you've had that one written down. Yeah.
I plan
Wow.
everything. But
No,
yeah, like,
I
they
think
just
you're
don't
right.
have anyone to, like, who else are they going to stick in that car?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Especially now Albon's gone to Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although with a chance to be retained by the Red Bull team,
Oh,
if they want
bullshit.
him, or should I say if the tie backers want him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to leave you, I'm afraid. I need to head over to my parents.
All right.
Fair enough.
I'm going
Good
to
seeing you, mate.
jump off early. All right.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Everybody, cheers, everyone. I'll speak to you later anyway. So,
No, it, pal. Cheers for coming on.
no worries. Ta.
Yeah, I'm with Tom on that. I don't think he's done it I don't think he deserves an extension by merit. But then again, who are you going to put in the car? Who's going to go in there? It's too soon for Liam Lawson. It's maybe Daruvala, the Indian guy. Maybe him. But he's not exactly setting F2 alight this season. So
Mahave Ranganathan.
Yeah.
he has F1 testing experience now.
Exactly.
God, that's such a shambles. I couldn't believe that. I think for Red Bull, of course, like they do have a lot of these drivers in sort of waiting, but I think it's super license points, which is their real sort of drawback. I don't think Daruvala would qualify for a super license. Liam Lawson definitely wouldn't. Yuki only got it because he finished fourth in the F2.
Yeah.
Yuki is someone who came from, he did Japanese F4 to, Asian Formula 3. I think they just went into Formula 3, then went straight to Formula 2, and now he's come straight into Formula 1. That progression has been, he's stepped up every year, basically. He's, and we saw with like Schumacher, he needed that extra year in F2. I think F2 is a great battleground. You're driving against some really talented drivers, all in supposedly equal cars. But I think he did need an extra year, and I think that Honda backing but something that Honda were putting pressure on Red Bull. They wanted either Tsunoda or, Matsushita, to be in that car for this season. And Yuki was the one who managed to get the super license points to be able to do it. But you never know. Second season, he could come alight, and David Coulthard probably have to eat his words for probably not the first time, because he does talk a lot of. Yeah.
I mean, you don't get a job as a
Coulthard,
commentator without doing it.
Yeah. I think Coulthard was way too harsh on him. You've got to pack your bags and leave. That's the guy's like 20 or whatever it is, 21 years old or something. Like, come on. I mean, he was thrust in there too soon, probably, but give him a chance. Like, he's not done. He's not at that level yet. He's not. He's got the talent, but he's not quite consistent enough yet. But he will be. That'll come in time with experience. And how else can you? It's like the catch-22 with jobs. We all know this. How can you get experience if you don't have a job?
Yeah.
How can you get experience in an F1 car if you're not driving an F1 car? There's no substitute for it.
I mean, people were saying that Max Verstappen was put into the Toro Rosso too soon in his career because of how young he was, and then
they changed the super license rules because of him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, was he even? I don't think he was actually old enough, if he finished on the podium in like his first season in the USA, to actually drink any champagne.
No.
Yeah, that was 2017. He was going to finish on the podium. He was only 20 years old, so he wouldn't have been able to drink.
But he overtook Raikkonen off the
But then Raikkonen got the podium, and people were like, "Oh, it's because you can't give him alcohol or something." It's like, no, come on.
No, that was one of the most awkward things I've ever seen in the cool down room.
It's not the first time it's happened. It's happened twice to him. You've got to feel bad because he got that penalty in Mexico as well when it happened.
And then Vettel was just walking along like the circuit, just like, "Yep, I'm off here."
That was farcical. Mexico 2016, wasn't it? Just the way Verstappen was defending.
Yeah.
Vettel on the radio to Charlie Whiting.
That whole race was a farce, because at the first corner of the first lap, both Mercedes just cut the grass.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
And then Max did the same thing to defend from Vettel, and that's what he got the penalty for.
Consistency.
Yeah. I mean, consistency in F1, stewarding decisions. What is this? The game?
Yeah, the game's more consistent, isn't it? To be fair.
Yeah. Has anyone played Portimao yet?
No, I need to.
I need to get the new game.
A pain in the arse.
Really?
It's hard.
There are so many really low traction corners. Ones where you can just spin it. It's so easy. Turn 3, when you're going up the hill onto that second straight, that's really difficult to keep it. And then there's another one where it's almost a hairpin, but it's going uphill, and it's so low traction. It's so easy to drop it. But otherwise, it's a really fun track. It's kind of like Zandvoort to drive, with the up and down and the sort of the changes. It is quite fun to drive, but it's just too sort of low traction zones that you have to be really careful.
I remember when I got F1 2020 and playing Zandvoort, I was like, this circuit is amazing. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Just, it is like driving a roller coaster.
I really like driving Zandvoort. The problem is I just seem to have no pace there.
They are very good round there.
And they also increased the AI at Silverstone in F1 2020. I could it used to be my track I could always bank on to get solid results. Then it just sort of disappeared very quickly. But no, Portimao is a good track.
Yeah, and we're getting Imola next month, and then Saudi Arabia in November.
It's not coming. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Oh God, I want them to put Turkey in the game, but I don't think they are going to do that.
No, they only confirmed the 3 tracks that are going to.
I don't think they're going to put Turkey in, which is a shame because it's been on the calendar 2 years in a row. Come on, you can do that. It used to be in the F1 game.
I mean, they still have China on the F1 2021.
No, what's up with? I mean, at least they got rid of Vietnam. At least that's gone
thank
now.
God.
That was so bad.
It was awful, wasn't it? We're never going to race there, thankfully. I don't think in real life it's not happening.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Every time it comes up on my career, I'm just like, all right, switch to 5-lap race. I do 100% race distances for everything else, but I just can't do Vietnam. It's shit and it's
Awful.
bad.
I can barely do 20 laps of Monaco without throwing my controller at something
Oh,
because I keep it. You need a wheel if you're going to drive Monaco.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
At least the hairpin's better than it used to be, because doing the hairpin on a pad was impossible until 2020. I think they changed it, where it was just really
Brakes at
difficult.
5 miles an hour.
Yeah. It's mad. But, at least, next year we've got places like Miami to look forward to driving around. I mean, that's going to be fun.
The circuit that made Louis want to be sick.
Yeah.
It's literally a car park. It is literally a car park.
It's just going to be like Las Vegas again.
It's exactly the same, isn't it?
I wonder
it's gonna
what the
be-
crowd's going to be like in real life, at least from the Miami one, because obviously the reason why we weren't in America for so long was because there just wasn't an interest in the shambles that was Indianapolis.
I think
Cota's
first
been doing
year.
rather well.
I think first year. I think you're always going to draw a crowd because it's something new.
Yeah.
It's like you ever see like the first races in China or the first race. I imagine the first race in Vietnam would have been very well attended.
Yeah.
Because it's something new. But then if that race doesn't deliver, you can expect fans are just not going to turn up from years on. Luckily with sort of COTA, while it wasn't, they were literally having to get like Katy Perry to sing to get people to go in like the first years.
Oh, yeah.
We've had good races at COTA, and COTA is sort of slowly becoming a more accepted track. They do, IndyCar racing there now. I think they even do MotoGP there as well.
They do, yeah.
They get more sports involved, and people are like, you know what, COTA is actually a decent track to watch the Formula One.
Crowds have kind of struggled still for the F1, I think, haven't they? They're always on about financial. I know it all goes back to that hurricane in 2015, but they're always on about financial issues at COTA. So if Miami's not a disaster, I can see COTA going. And it pains me to say that, but I think
COTA's not a night race because I don't think Texas has the
they
electricity.
Should do Miami as a night race.
They definitely don't have the electricity for a day race.
They need to do Miami as a night race. That'd be really cool. And Florida's disgustingly hot in the day. It's like Singapore. Like, why not do it at night? That's something to kind of draw in the crowds. I think it's a better spectacle. Sorry,
I mean, I said an American night race because they do it a lot with NASCAR. A lot of NASCAR, especially like with Daytona or something. A track like can be like fully lit, especially around the banking.
Yeah,
I think they should.
I mean, there's no way that the car park won't have any street lights. So.
Yeah, exactly. They're well equipped for it, aren't they?
Just change the bulbs a bit.
Just put bigger bulbs in. Yeah, I need to get going, unfortunately. But
yeah, me too.
Thanks for coming on, everybody.
No worries.
No worries.
All right. See you in a bit.